welcome the Shadow Secretary of State in for the Home Department, Charles Kitchener, who I've worked with before, and I am confident that he can fulfil his duties in scrutinising the government. I'd also like to welcome an old face again, Dean. He is arrived back in PB, and it's an honour to see him back. I'm hoping he can bring some good contributions back to the community. But I would like to begin by saying I've spoken to members of the community today and some Labour backbenchers, and they are disgusted by the comments made, as I'm sure most people in this house are. We expect the best from our, especially front benchers, but of everyone in this house. How does he believe that we can have confidence in his leadership to lead the Justice Department without causing another scandal and another PR disaster?
Secretary of State.
As previously stated, I greatly regret making the grotesque comments which have since been leaked. I reiterate the fact that these were simple jokes made in a private setting when the cabinet was off duty. I believe this does not affect my position in cabinet, as in my ability to lead the Justice Department, which I hopefully will continue to be doing to what I hope to be to a great extent.
Leader of the opposition.
I now ask him if one of the most major officers of state, and we can obviously see why the public are concerned with what he has done and the lack of transparency. We've not really received a government comment about this until today. Obviously, we've got a statement coming, but I'm very concerned. This government said that they would be transparent. So where is this transparency, or was it another double standard?
Secretary of State.
Thank you, the commitment to be transparent goes to all departments. Everything we do, we promise to and will be transparent in every single thing that we do. Like I said, these comments were never meant to be released, so in private they were casual, a joke, which was not made in a professional setting and was not meant to obviously be released to the public. In transparency, everything we do publicly and will affect the public will of course be shown as per the institution of the Home Secretary.
Leader of the opposition.
It's very good saying that it's good being in a private setting, but does he understand that obviously he's in a very important office? We all respect that office on normal occasions, but does he not think that he has degraded the office? He's withered it, in fact. He's caused all this issue with it, and people are losing confidence in that office. So he should go and pack his bags and leave for the sake of the public service if he's going to do one last thing in the name of the public service and those that he represents.
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Although I do believe Chris actually has affected the party and the standing of potentially the Department of Justice, as per the BBC poll, the Justice Department is down, but my personal rating is up. I believe I continue in my role to continue making the Department of Justice better and better every day, as I will be working with my colleagues in the department to do so in the coming days and weeks, hopefully during my tenure. Though I do greatly believe and it's a great mistake, I do not believe it should put the jeopardy of the Justice Department. I believe that though it may have taken a great hit personally and to the right party, I believe it has affected the Justice Department.
Final question, Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. He didn't really answer my question. I asked him about the stain that he has left on the office and the long-term effects of that, because obviously it's very concerning. We've got Minister of States trying to deflect responsibility and trying to duck out of the issues that they have caused. He has caused much distress, I'm sure. The British public are mad. I've spoken to them. They are not happy with his performance. They're upset that they've not got an apology. Whoever that is, please stop. So can he please tell us why we should again trust him? And please can you answer my prior question? Thank you.
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As per my prior answer,
excited to be the cabinet. I'm dumb.
Okay. As per my prior answer, I did answer in fact that I do not believe I have left a permanent stain on the Justice Department as a whole only. my personal. I also asked Ram Joe, does he not want to speak about opinion polls because his party has done so poorly in them compared to other members of this cabinet and the DSP entirely?
Yeah.
Order. We now come to the deputy leader of the opposition.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Will the right honourable gentleman comment on the language he used regarding the BBC chairman, in which he said that they should suck his rock hard? And will he apologise to the BBC chairman for the sexual and vulgar language he used regarding him?
Secretary of State.
Here.
I greatly regret this grotesque comment I made towards the chairperson of the BBC. Later this evening, I'll be writing a formal written apology to them in regards to this. It was said at a time where I was agitated by potential decision the BBC was making.
Order. I'm sorry to interrupt the Secretary of State. I've already warned members on the British Sovereignty Party benches, and I really do not wish to have to ask members to leave. But if they continue to interrupt the Secretary of State, I will have no choice to do so, Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As per what I said with the written form apology, the statement itself was made out of a place of anger, which I greatly regret being in, as per what I've just said. So with that, I do believe my comments were wrong, and I will be apologising to the chairperson of the BBC later this evening.
Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the right honourable gentleman be apologising to the public for the disgusting comments he made in the cabinet group chat where he said he was the cabinet cum dump?
Yeah.
I withdraw the language. I
oh,
was
oh.
using it to.
Thank you. Oh my Lord. I thank the honourable gentleman for withdrawing the question. I will allow the Secretary of State to respond, but if he could do so by not using those words specifically, it would be greatly appreciated. Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As per what I've said previously in this House, the statements were made privately off duty, working with other cabinet members working on individual portfolios within the group chat. We engaged in light-hearted conversation during this time, typical of a new cabinet, especially when I had not known them during the campaign. I had not met them. We were simply having a conversation. So, unfortunately, those comments were made as a joke, as a humorous joke, which many people will, though call grotesque and wrong, it was simply intended for comical effect.
Final question, Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I ask my final question, I'd like to raise the point that he did not actually answer my question. I asked, will he apologise to the public? And he did not mention whether or not he will actually apologise to the public. Now, on to my final question. Can the right honourable gentleman highlight what actions he has taken to try and breathe new life into the Ministry of Justice?
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As per my previous answers, I have again and again apologised for the grotesque comments I have made, and of course I do apologise for this one too. As per my role in the Department of Justice, I have been working with members of the department in working on modernising the bar exam, its curriculum, etc. We also are working currently on a recruitment drive for for the legal profession, to get people through the bar exam, to get more barristers, and to work on increasing the capacity of the judicial system as a whole.
We now come to the member for Tayside, Vice Sergeant James.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. It's important that we talk about the Ministry of Justice today. However, I would like to ask the Secretary of State something about his comments. He says that he says that the comments made in a place of anger, and that he has a right to continue comment. He lost the right to be in his role. He wants his department to get better and better every day. How can the public be sure that the ministry is going to improve under his leadership. The right thing for the people to do is to resign from his position. His words that he said was that disgusting and horrible. We can't even say it in this house. Secretary of State, do the right thing and resign.
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to clarify on what I meant. I meant I believe it'd be right for me to continue my role as Secretary of State. In regards to the grossest comments, I believe worse comments have been said. I would like to quote the Deputy Leader of the Opposition, who continues to tell those people within this House even to kill themselves. This is a grotesque comment made by the opposition member, and I believe people should be
order.
that too.
Order. I must ask the right honourable gentleman to withdraw that phrase used. I understand the point. Order. Let me finish. I understand the point he was trying to make. However, there is a line that cannot be crossed when it comes to unparliamentary language, and I'm afraid he crossed that line. Therefore, I must ask him to withdraw that word. The phrase he used.
Yeah.
I reiterate the fact that this is a phrase used, but though I withdraw it out of respect.
Oh, thank you. Sergeant James.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. He, again, it's typical in the Democratic Social Party deflecting on our party. My second question is about the Ministry of Justice because for some reason the Secretary of State continues to serve it. I want to ask the Secretary of State, will he join with me in welcoming back the Lady Chief Justice? Because I've heard nothing from the Secretary of State or anyone the Minister. And will he also inform this House what he actually wants to do to the Ministry of Justice? Because his actions do not show that he has actual plans. It shows that he wants to act in a disgraceful way in a public office. So what do you want to do in the Ministry of Justice? And will you join with me in welcoming the Lady Chief Justice back to her?
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have worked extensively over the past few days with the Lady Chief Justice, and I do join in welcome her. I have worked extensively across many members of the Department of Justice. As outlined in the Queen's speech, the Department of Justice and my plans is to increase the curriculum for the bar exam, making more people, or it to be accessible for more people, as the entire justice system to be more accessible to the British people. In addition to this, we have plans to expand victim support, which will be outlined within the coming weeks in legislation.
That is all we have reserved questions. Any unreserved questions from members who haven't asked questions? Opposition Chief Whip. Deputy Leader of the Opposition, you've already asked your questions. Excuse me? Secretary.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think the comments, I do reiterate, were in private. I would never say these things in public. With that, the leaks were awful, and they should never happened. And from that, my conduct should never have happened. Though I do not believe this is something I should resign over. I did not break the ministerial code, which was outlined within the same chat that they were said in. Therefore, I believe it right that I am able to say in public.
Didn't break ministerial code, but you broke public trust.
Yeah.
Are there any further questions to the Secretary of State, leader of the British Sovereignty Party?
Here we go.
Here.
Secretary of State.
To prosecute what?
You've been listening.
Secretary, you want to prosecute? Oh, I'm sorry, I do not believe I saw that. the Home Secretary will outline the laws on illegal immigration and how we will be tackling that.
Any further questions? You know what? I'll allow additional questions from members who have reached their limit. Member for Tayside.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. The Secretary of State, I'm glad I've been given this opportunity to ask another question to the Secretary of State. He says that the comments in which he made being leaked was disgusting. Has he made comments like this before and it's just not been leaked before? Because he's adamant that the comments he's almost said that the comments he's made is allowed. Had it not been leaked, the public wouldn't have known. I commend the person who has leaked the Secretary of State's comments. Have you, Secretary of State, made comments like this before, but they haven't been leaked? And again, I'm calling for your resignation as Secretary of State. As Secretary of State.
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe all of what I've said has been now leaked from the camera, so I can say nothing else in a professional setting that is not private has been said. I appreciate things outside of even this group or at all is not technically needs to be discussed in this house. I ask, what else has the Deputy Leader said beyond the quote I have previously stated?
I'm deferring it.
Leader of the Opposition, Sir Callum Truss.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I'm very concerned, as I mostly am with members opposite. It's deflection. Apologising to the public. He's just saying, I'm sorry they were leaked. They were leaked. Not my fault. Nothing's my fault. I'm going to serve. It's all about me at the moment. I'm going to serve. We're just going to ignore what I've said. I'm not going to take any responsibility. I'm going to duck behind my Prime Minister, and we're going to pretend we are strong and stable and that we've got the public's confidence. How pathetic. They want to avoid scrutiny. They've ducked. They've hidden. That is why I had to call for this debate on the opposition day, to make sure that we can scrutinise them on behalf of the public. There's no ducking with this opposition, and I will not allow him to hide. So will he, for once, stand on that dispatch box opposite me and take responsibility? Say, I am sorry, and do the right thing in the public interest, the national interest, and resign.
Resign.
Disgrace to public safety.
Order.
Resign.
Oh, no, I didn't mean to stand up, man.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, I might as well. I would like to hear the question from the Leader of the Opposition, and when it's members of his own benches that are shouting over him, it makes me slightly concerned, because I would figure they would want to hear the question too. I want to hear the question. The Secretary of State definitely wants to hear the question. Our constituents want to hear the question. So I would ask members of the opposition benches to calm themselves, let the Leader of the Opposition get his question out so we can proceed. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you. So I will start. Yeah, okay. So will he, for once, stop ducking behind the Leader of the Opposition? Will he stop ducking behind the cabinet? Stop coming up with these stupid excuses, and actually take some responsibility and resign in the national interest? Thank you.
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe this entire session has been me apologising again and again for these comments I made. I have done nothing but take accountability and have taken scrutiny from this house. I ask, why has there been no comment made back on return for me of the quote from the Deputy Leader? Is this just dodging in return for me? I do not believe I have dodged anything, but clearly you are dodging the Deputy Leader and
deflection. Deflection.
This is not deflection. This is you dodging again. We are not just necessary.
They're not questioning us. They're questioning you.
Order. We do not need the back and forth across the dispatch box. If the Leader of the Opposition asks a question, the Secretary of State responds. If the Leader of the Opposition doesn't like the response, then he's more than welcome to ask a follow-up question in writing, asking for more clarification. We will have time for one more question. We will go to the Opposition Chief Whip.
Okay.
Secretary of State.
Yeah.
I reiterate the fact that according to the BBC poll, I still have public standing approval rating, unlike the opposition across from me.
Yeah.
Okay, we do have time for another question. Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. The Secretary of State has previously stated multiple times that I told people to certain things, yet I said it in a public environment to people who I am friends with, whereas he said about the BBC chairman that he should suck his certain thing in a private setting and faced condemnation from the BBC chairman himself, who the comments were directed to. Yet I don't see anyone getting angry at me for saying the same things that I've said. So, will the Secretary of State realise that maybe, just maybe, I say it to people who I know, who know that I am joking, whereas he says it to people who don't know that he's joking, who don't know that he's not serious. It's ridiculous, Mr. Speaker, that he deflects like this because he can't accept responsibility for his actions.
Hey, it's just another Labour
Or before we hear the response from the Secretary of State, it has been pointed out to me, that the member for Glasgow and Strathclyde accused another member of saying something untruthful. We do not accuse other members of lying. We can accuse them of inadvertently misleading. Thank you for withdrawing, Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have taken accountability, and I will be writing a letter today to the chairperson of the BBC to deeply apologise personally for what I've said. If we're using logic from the Deputy Opposition Leader, all my other comments, including the quote dump comment, was made in an environment of friends. Therefore, why is it being scrutinised in this house today?
Yeah.
Final question. We'll go to the Member of Parliament for Tayside 5.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. The Secretary of State likes to talk about the BBC polling of himself. His polling will go down because of this. This is disgusting, and the Ministry of Justice will undoubtedly face consequences because of this. And it's not the civil servants, it's not the judiciary's fault, it's the Secretary of State's fault. Do the right thing and do the right thing and resign for the country. It was the leak. You say it was in an environment of friends. So why was it leaked? It can't be much friends if they leaked. They did the right thing and leaked it to the public domain so they know what the Secretary of State is really like behind closed doors.
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe we all know a certain individual who has two-faced attributes, which obviously the leaker has. I asked, why are they bringing up opinion polls to me when their opinion polls are so appalling? They are so negative.
Because
why?
that's all you're mentioning.
We haven't had any.
Order. I would like to hear the response from the Secretary of State without the sedentary interjections from the opposition benches. Secretary of State.
So appalling. Why do they feel the need to bring it in return? Because they come from a place of awful polling.
Order. That is all the time we have for questions to the Secretary of State. Order. Before we come to ministerial statements from the Prime Minister and Chancellor of the Duchy, I would like to remind members that proceedings of today's today's proceedings are being streamed live on both the BBC and Parliament Live TV. So I must ask. I would like to encourage honourable and right honourable members to make sure their behaviour is in such a way that reflects themselves on national television. We now come to a ministerial statement from the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker / Clerk. But dear my right honourable colleagues of the House, as well as fellow members of the House opposite, I believe it's right for me to explain what has happened in recent events. I will first of all address the situation from the former Home Secretary. The former Home Secretary brought unprofessional behaviour into the government, in which he was then eventually dismissed. As the cabinet grew no confidence in his ability within his job capacity, I believe I had to make the tough and hard call. I want to take this opportunity now to apologise to the British people and to the House. I can admit that this has been a tough week within my tenure as Prime Minister. Hence why later tonight I will address the British public outside 10 Downing Street on the next steps this government will take to deliver our mandate to the British people. We'll also address the changes that will happen within this government. And I want to ensure professionalism is restored within the government as a whole. I will say this, that although this may be regarded as a worse start for a government within Project Britannia, I can promise to this House, like we said in our election campaign, things can only get better. We may have hit the rough patches now, but mark my words when I say improvements in delivering will come sooner than you think. There will be a further comment from my right honourable friend, Chancellor of the Duchy himself, on the events and actions the Cabinet Office has taken on events we obviously know. But first of all, I do obviously want to join the Labour opposition and also obviously welcome Dean Marston back to Project Britannia. He's a distinguished member within our community, and I'm very pleased to see him back. Thank you, everyone.
Order. We will now any questions on the statement by the Prime Minister. Leave it to the opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I'm just very concerned. He said he removed the Home Secretary for unprofessionalism, but the member opposite and the member next to him committed even worse offences to the leaks we have seen. The British people are appalled, but why is he not appalled? He said he's going for professionalism, but look who's sat next to him, who he keeps defending. The British people are not being fooled, and this argument will not wash, Mr. Speaker. At least the former Home Secretary acted in a proper manner. The people respected him. His cabinet probably didn't respect him because they did not act in this awful manner that we've seen from the leaks. Maybe because he actually stood up to the members in his cabinet, because he is not able to, Mr. Speaker. He lets his cabinet drag him around, and then he has to try and cover himself with these barbaric excuses, just like all of his cabinet are right now. So will he get his member to do the right thing? Will he get the Justice Secretary to resign? Or will he reshuffle him in the name of the national interest? So will he put his unmoral agenda to one side and actually do something for the British public, do the right thing, instead of hiding himself in this big conspiracy of dodging and deflecting the blame?
Prime Minister.
Have I been called upon?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank Leader of the Opposition for obviously his question on this. Like I said within my statement, that all this will be addressed outside 10 Downing Street. I would say this to the House. There will be a written statement to the House after the speech at 10 Downing Street, but I believe the statement outside 10 Downing Street will give everyone a bit more depth within obviously the situation that's currently happening. I will happily answer the question of obviously from the Labour opposition as well, in regards of asking my right honourable friend to resign or reshuffling him. Like I said, this will be all addressed within the 10 Downing Street's speech tonight. You all are happy to attend, but the fact is, I believe this shouldn't be just spoken within the House, but it should be speaking to the British public as well. Because I think everyone in the House can join me on this, that this has affected the British trust as well. I will admit that, and I will admit my mistakes with government. And like I said in my statement, it hasn't been a perfect start, and I haven't been a perfect Prime Minister, but I'll assure the opposition that everything will be addressed within the speech outside 10 Downing Street tonight.
The member of Parliament, they said 5 Sergeant James.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. At least me and the Prime Minister finally agree on something. It's been just over a week of the Democratic Social Party in government, and what have we seen? You left it up to. You said the cabinet has voted to remove the Home Secretary. Well, I'm assuming. I'm only assuming this, that the Justice Secretary had a vote in that. He shouldn't be in the cabinet, never mind making decisions about who will be the Home Secretary.
Yeah.
He says things can only get better. The only way that the government can even think about getting better is by removing the Justice Secretary from his post. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to his speech outside
Yeah.
10 Downing. I hope it isn't as short and as useless as the one that he's just made now. Will he join with me and call for the resignation of the man sat next to him, because it's disgraceful? If the Prime Minister had done it or the Leader of the Opposition had done it, they'd quite rightly resign. If I had done it, I would resign. Justice Secretary, resign. Prime Minister, do your job. Uphold your right. You are responsible for the man sat next to you. Do the right thing. Either urge him to resign or boot him out of your cabinet.
Yeah.
Prime Minister.
Well, I thank the right honourable member of, was it for Teesside and Fife?
Yes.
Obviously, like I said, obviously I hear your concerns, and like I said, most of this will be brought in within the 10 Downing Street statement tonight. However, I will say my statement wasn't supposed to be a long Russian novel. It was supposed to get a point across. Because the fact is, the British people deserve answers, and the fact is, we're going to give them to them tonight. And I think if you want to serve your constituencies, you will respect that. Because the fact is, I've already said I will write a statement after the speech tonight and give it to the House, in which we could debate it in another session. But the fact is, I believe this 10 at the 10 Downing, I can't speak. The 10 Downing Street speech tonight, it will outline the government's future. And like I said, I think I've already mentioned an announcement earlier today that we are doing a major cabinet reshuffle. So yeah, this will also
Need
be
it.
announced at the 10 Downing Street speech tonight. But I really do hope the opposition tunes in and listens to our plans, because I believe this will take the next step for our country.
Opposition Chief Whip.
Come on, bitch, now you can do it.
Yeah.
Order, Deputy Leader of the Opposition. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, I will outline basically. I've had many comments and many of my cabinet contact me on regards of the Home Secretary, and apparently.
Oof. Who's that?
What the? Anyways, lost my track of thought there. I will start. I will thank obviously the right honourable member, the right honourable opposition chief whip for that question. So basically, I've got many questions and obviously DMs from many of my cabinet ministers, basically saying that the Home Secretary the former Home Secretary, I shall reiterate, was making the environment within the cabinet toxic, and that's something I shouldn't allow within my government as a whole. But the fact is, one thing I do believe in democracy. I do believe if my cabinet aren't happy within the with the current environment, within obviously the cabinet, then they deserve to say what happens and what makes the change. And that's one good thing about my government. We all get a say and we all get to vote on it, like a democracy. But within regards to the Justice Secretary, no one's proposed a vote to remove him. So if I was getting the same reaction from my other right honourable friends, then obviously I would do the same thing. I believe in fairness and equality, and yes, if someone proposed a vote to remove the Justice Secretary, I would do the absolute same.
Final question, Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to outline some facts to the Prime Minister. If a member of the armed forces did an action like that, they would be dismissed. If a member of the civil service did an action such as the one the Justice Secretary did, they would be dismissed.
Yeah.
Any other profession, they would be dismissed or would resign out of shame.
Yeah.
But it's double standards for this government, of course it is. We all see it, we all know it. The British public can see it, Mr. Clark. And it is disgusting to see from our government, those that are meant to represent us. They may have won a majority, Mr. Speaker, but this is not representative of Britain. We do not stand up for those. We will always stand up for those comments. The British people are fed up. I am fed up. And I'm sure members of this House are fed up. Even some of their backbenchers are fed up. Maybe he should listen to the country more. And he might not be so out of touch. He might be more in tune with the British. He might be more in tune with the British people. If he actually listened, he actually got to speak to them a bit more. Instead of just trying to hide, duck under his desk, because for all we know, he's been hiding under his desk with the Justice Secretary, just hoping it will all go away. But it will not go away. The right thing to do, like many other professions, sack him. Because we cannot have this double standards that he's presenting. It's not a good look for the government. It's not a good look for democracy in PB. It's a bad look on all of us. So I am officially calling for his resignation as leader of the opposition. Will he join me for the sake of the country? Thank you.
Prime Minister.
I'm not the leader of opposition, mate.
Prime
Can I
Minister.
stand calling
just
for
clarify
it?
You will be
Prime.
soon.
No. Order. No. Prime Minister to answer the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think this House can agree. I can't exactly hide under the desk, can we? We all know that.
Yeah, we all
Not
know
funny.
that.
Not funny.
But let
All
me
you've
just.
been doing.
Will you let me answer the question?
Oh,
Well, maybe get to the point instead of making an unfunny joke.
Order.
Oh, that's quite
Unnecessary.
come from you, Mr.
Order.
Mr. Member of Parliament.
No.
Is it? Is
Let me
it?
just
Is it?
clear.
Oh, go
Order.
on.
Order. I've warned. Prime Minister, why are you still standing?
Oh, I do apologise.
I've warned members that interrupting from sedentary positions is completely unnecessary, and I'm guys, English is hard. I feel like I must again I give a final warning this time to members that continual interruption from sedentary positions is disruptive to the proceedings of this House, and it just delays us further. We have a lot of business to get to, and I would like to get to that business in a timely manner. So if members continue to interrupt from sedentary positions, I will have no choice but to ask them to withdraw from the chamber. Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I will bring up the point that the Leader opposition keeps calling me double standard. I personally don't think I'm double standard at all. Personally, I've spoken to the Secretary of State for Justice and I've heard his side of the story. Obviously, I do condone these comments. Absolutely.
Whoa.
But the fact is, like I said, everything will be given out tonight. Like I said in my statement, of course I condone them. Why wouldn't I I can't even reword. But either way, I don't. Let's put it this way: I don't like the comments that the Secretary of State for Justice did. Okay, I condemn them. So the fact is, everything will be said in the 10 Downing Street speech tonight. Yes, that's on record. I will make
Order. I quite literally just made a point to the House that we do not need the back and forth jibber jabber across the dispatch boxes. The Prime Minister, I've called him to answer the question. We do not need the back and forth between him and the Leader of the Opposition, because that, again, as I just said, delays the House getting to the vital proceedings we have before us. Prime Minister.
In short, I understand we've got lots of business to do. Yes, that is on the record. Everything will be addressed tonight. And and everything will continue to be addressed in the 10 Downing speech tonight.
Order before we come to the statement from the Chancellor of the Duchy, I must ask the opposition chief whip to withdraw the statement, the remark he made while the Prime Minister was speaking, saying, quote, only his mistresses hide under the desk. I must ask
Yeah.
We should call for his resignation. That's sexual.
Order. I don't know why the leader of the House is speaking when he's not even present in the chamber, but that's for a different time.
That was the Home Secretary.
Was it? Oops. There's too many of us. So I must ask the right honourable gentleman to withdraw. I must ask him to refrain from making any further remarks of the sorts.
The number takers in the
he
gallery.
already withdrew. I apologize. We now come to the ministerial statement from the Chancellor of the Duchy.
Whoa!
Thank you,
Hey.
Mr. Clark. I today wish to make an urgent statement to the House regarding the recent events that have occurred, including the sacking of the Home Secretary, the ongoing situation with my right honourable friend, the Justice Secretary, and also what the Cabinet Office response has been over the last day. So, firstly, Mr. Clark, I would like to apologise on behalf of this government for the actions and words that my right honourable cabinet colleague said in that group chat. While it was only a private group chat that had no official duty to this group of Project Britannia, I was still horrified and disgusted when those comments were brought to my office. And I can assure you today that the Cabinet Office has taken action on this. Earlier today, I met with the Cabinet Secretary, where I formally requested, under the approval of the Prime Minister, for a full investigation to be opened by the Cabinet Office's Prosperity and Ethics team. This investigation has now been launched, and we expect the final report to be dispatched to us within the next couple of days. I shall give further statements to the House regarding this operation when the report becomes available for public viewing in the future, which we expect will be within the next week.
Order. I'm not quite sure why members of the opposition are so frantically jumping up and down. When I understand their urge to ask questions, but I must encourage them to wait for A, the Chancellor of the Duchy to finish, and B, for me to announce to the House that questions will now be in order. So I'm going to politely ask them to remain in their seats while the Chancellor of the Duchy finishes.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I would now like to carry on with what I was saying with regards to the recent sacking of the former Home Secretary. The former Home Secretary, the sacking was not a decision that we had intended initially to make, but after evidence had come in that had made us almost certain that a recent leaking incident of a cabinet group chat, which had been agreed to by all members of the cabinet under an official agreement oath, that leaking of the chat was not permitted, had been breached, the sacking was the appropriate decision to make. And I can assure you that this government will take action with regards to that in the coming days. I would also like to say, with regards to action, that this government is still committed to the promise that it made to the British people who elected us, that it will stand up and it will deal with inappropriate behaviour in government. And as Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, that is what I will strive to achieve for the sake of this government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I conclude my urgent statement here.
Order. We now have questions on the statement. Leader of the Opposition, Sir Callum Truss.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you for the clarification, a lot more clear than the Prime Minister's statement. He might be trying to shine himself to be the next leader, but that's just speculation for now. Secondly, I'd like to move on to zoom in on the investigation. If the Cabinet Office, the Cabinet Secretary, find there to be extreme levels of misconduct, what action will they take? Will they get him to formally resign? Because I believe we must respect what the Cabinet Office have to say. They are obviously independent. They're not politicians like us. So we should really respect and value their opinion. He should resign anyway now. But if the report does say, will he take the right action and resign? He should already resign, as I just said. But obviously, will he resign or will the Prime Minister sack him?
Secretary of State.
I thank the Leader of the Opposition very much for that question. And with regards to the question he just mentioned, absolutely, this Cabinet will review and respect the decision of the investigating body of this investigation. If in the event that the investigation that I have ordered turns out to be a result in which the head of the civil service formally advises that that my honourable friend, the Justice Secretary, or any other cabinet members should be sacked from their position, it is very likely that this government shall carry out that action. Obviously, at this time, I can't give full comments as the investigation is still ongoing, but what I can assure the House is that this investigation is currently being done properly, and all members of the Cabinet have been contacted and have been either in the process of being interviewed or will be interviewed at some point within the next couple of days regarding their side of events and, of course, what has happened.
Sergeant James.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I thank the Chancellor, the Duchy, for giving the statement to the House today. He says that the group chat served no use to the public. As far as I'm aware, it had cabinet members in, so he's right. The cabinet that we currently have serves absolutely no use to the public. If it served no use, though, why did he make all members agree to not leaking it? If it hadn't have been leaked, he wouldn't have had to launch this investigation. And also, I urge, again, I'm going to keep on doing this, the Justice Secretary needs to resign. It shouldn't be left up to the Cabinet Office and the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster to tell him what is right to do. Hopefully, he is mature enough to do the right thing and resign. The Cabinet have no use, and that's why he said that, but why would you say that a group chat served no use when it has cabinet members in it? And if it served no use, why did you make people commit to not leaking the contents of the group chat? I fear that there is some fibbing from the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster.
The Secretary of State in the Cabinet Office.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. Well, in response to the honourable member's questions, I would like to make a justification to say I did not say that the cabinet was useless. I said specifically in my statement that the group chat was off government duty, but additionally as well, it was not under my official decision that the cabinet group chat was made an official under oath no leakage group chat situation, but I did support the decision. I cannot give a full comment, obviously, as to what I know might have happened in that group chat, because I had, of course, joined the group chat at a later time than some of my cabinet colleagues sat beside me are. But I would like to assure the House that this government is not, quote, useless, and it is still a strong government that will achieve the plans set by the Prime Minister at the general election.
Sergeant James.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I just don't think you're grasping the concept. If it's got cabinet members in and they are being forced not to leak content of that group chat, it is clearly an official group chat, and what happens in there goes on the record and should be in. If something happens in there, it should definitely be in a public domain. How can a group chat full of cabinet members leading departments running our country being forced to declare themselves as not leaking anything? How? That's impossible. It is clearly an official group chat where the Justice Secretary has made this comment. Justice Secretary, I'm gonna keep on calling it resign. And Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, I just don't think you grasp the concept of an official group chat with official cabinet members in it. It's clearly an official group chat, and the Justice Secretary, you should be, and the whole cabinet should be calling for the Justice Secretary to resign.
Chancellor of the Duchy.
Well, thank you very much for that statement, Mr. Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. I absolutely disagree with what the honourable gentleman has just said. I am very confident within my abilities to know what an official group chat is, and that group chat was used for official government business, but then it
So it's an
was
official group chat.
officially no longer made an official government group chat, and the messages, according to my official knowledge from the investigation so far, is that those messages occurred in the group chat during off-government hours, as well as when the government group chat was declared as a non-group chat after an initial message that was a formal government message had been apparently leaked by a former member of the cabinet, which we now apparently know and who have sacked as a result.
Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I'd like to say, with all these oaths, I think the government have got a bit paranoid. They obviously saw the behaviour and they was probably like, we need to put an end to this. We cannot let the public see this. That is why they are so frustrated. They've seen the public have found out what happens behind closed doors. And I think we need a bit more transparency. So that brings me to my question. Will the Cabinet Secretary get access to the group chat so he obviously can conduct a full-on investigation? And can they obviously please state that none of the messages have been deleted from the member? The Justice Secretary, I don't know what is the MP for. So can they please, can the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster please state that none of the messages have been deleted, and will the Cabinet Secretary get access to the group chat so he can conduct a proper and full investigation? Thank you.
Chancellor of the Duchy.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I would like to assure the Leader of the Opposition that under my specific request, that the investigating body, as the head of the civil service, has been granted access to the group chat for a full formal investigation of messages in there, and he is currently ongoing. He is currently in the process of reviewing the group chat. I would also like to say that no messages have been deleted as of far, according to my knowledge and the knowledge of the investigating body, as well as the Prime Minister. That the only reports of messages that have been deleted so far are few of the former Home Secretary's messages, but at this time I am not able to confirm it, and that is the furthest point of information I am able to give currently on this investigation status. But I can assure the House that, as well, under my request, that when this report is completed, the Cabinet will myself and other senior members of the government will spend around 24-hour period of reviewing the full report and deciding on the final actions before the report is released to the British public, and as well as our actions from the report being officially decided. Thank you to the House.
Actually got something. Please.
No, I'm sorry. That is all the time we have.
Chancellor of the Duchy,
for
check politics channel.
statements.
Check politics channel. Word.
Yeah.
Order. Thank you for that, Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Look, check it as well.
Right. Anyways, I lost the order paper. We now come
Resign.
to the second. That was mean. Anyways, we now come to the second reading of the House of Commons Disqualification Act Amendments Bill. Is the Leader of the House here? No, the Leader of the House isn't here. Prime Minister, how much reading time?
30 seconds.
30 seconds it is.
I think the Justice Secretary should resign.
Well, this is a great reading.
Is
Oh,
the politics channel also a great read for you, Chancellor of the
it
Duchy?
is. Yeah,
I
it's
don't check
fantastic.
I don't check the discords during Parliament. Always
Well,
have.
you should, because it's very, very unfortunate for you.
Order.
Extremely
I'm not.
unfortunate.
Order. I'm not quite sure why members are currently engaging in sedentary debates when we're supposed to be reading the bill before the House.
Interesting.
Anywho, we now come to the second reading of the House of Commons Disqualification Act Amendments Bill, who I believe the Leader of the Opposition has been designated as the new sponsor. Leader of the Opposition.
Yes, I was asked to sponsor. Obviously, with the previous bills, Mr. Clark and other members, they create lots of limits. But this bill was designed in hopes to relax them, and also add some new barriers, such as you need to be a British citizen. Sorry, my pronunciation has seemed to slip today. You need to be a British citizen to obviously join the House, as I'm sure we can all agree that should be a criteria anyway. And obviously we need to make sure there is no crossfire with like civil service. So obviously the amendment will reinstate that. Because obviously we don't want a member of the Met causing any issues within Met, and because obviously we want our Met to be non-political, especially how they have to get involved in many cases. And then also we have a new clause for inactivity. So if you fail to attend the House or fail to issue a leave of absence notice for 4 consecutive sittings, you'll be immediately vacated from your chair. Because also we want MPs that can be honest. If you can't attend, you must say it. And we want MPs that will attend proactively, so we can really show how great our democracy is. And I do hope that members opposite can support this bill. Thank you.
Yeah.
Prime Minister.
I'll also join the Labour opposition that this is a great bill. Obviously, the former Home Secretary worked on this. Obviously, I did look over it, and I believe this will definitely benefit the political future of Project Britannia as a whole. So I'm very pleased that this bill's obviously been getting amended, and I hope everyone eyes this bill.
Here. I motion to vote.
Second.
The question be put, that the motion be heard as presented, as many as are of that opinion say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question be put, that the bill be read a second time, as many as are of that opinion say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. House now comes to the third reading of the same Prime Minister reading time.
Motion to just vote.
Yeah. Second.
Question be put, the motion be heard as presented, as many as are of that opinion say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question be put, that the bill be read a third time, as many as are of that opinion say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no. I think the aye. Division. Clear the lobby.
Fuck
Oh,
off.
don't be such a sausage, will ya?
No.
Cabinet's been very divided.
I'm saying no now, just for the pisses.
What a
Fuck
prick.
you.
There's no whip anyway. It's not a whipped bill.
Oh, for God's sake, my UI / in Navigator has been enabled. I can't bloody move.
Whoa,
It's a
just
free
press
vote.
tag again.
Owen, whoever frees me.
Oh, we left you some space on the benches back here.
Someone
if you
get
could
me a
fit.
wheelchair. I need moving.
I'll get you a wheelchair happily. Wheelchair.
Okay, return to the lobby.
I'm just better than you all.
Yeah.
I'm super speedy.
Wonder how the vote went.
There you go, wheelchair.
My vote better be in a blood. I mean, wheelchair.
Yeah, as long as you're in the lobby, I don't care. You don't have to be sitting.
Oh,
Or the ayes to the right are 14, the noes to the left are 1. So the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order. Unlock. The House now comes to. Oh my god. House now comes to the adjournment. House now comes to the question of adjournment. Leader of the opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Given the current situation, we decided to debate the Cabinet Office because I believe it's a department that's not been very transparent in recent days since this government took office, and obviously it's very important that we have a transparent Cabinet Office that can obviously deliver on the pledges that they set out in the Prime Minister's original speech. Okay, people are getting blown up. So yes, we are very concerned on this side of the house. It's took ages for them to come out with a response. I think they've had just over 24 hours to give us a proper response. It's took them this long. It took us to put a debate out there for them to give us a response and obviously get this session going after we made some concedies to get this session going earlier today. And I do believe in transparency. I've served in cabinet myself. I've served in the I've served in the Cabinet Office before as Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, believe it or not. I've served across cabinet. Okay, we don't need those comments, whoever said that. So it is very important, obviously, the Cabinet Office works with the Cabinet, but the comments that have came out of the government group chats are very concerning. I'm concerned, the British public are concerned, and fellow members of this House are seemingly concerned because of the vulgar nature of the comments. And the Justice Secretary can continue to sit on those benches and be smug all he likes, Mr. Clark, but it will not change the fact of what he said is utterly wrong and disgusting. As I said earlier, I spoke with members of the British public, aka the community, and they are completely appalled by the government's inaction to address until now. They've just left it blank. They've tried to hide away from it. And many people are concerned, and they have a right to be concerned. This government has failed them, and the government need to go and admit that. I do hope in the Prime Minister's statement later today, he gives us a proper apology, and he announces the Justice Secretary is going to be out of cabinet. I would also like to move on to the I'd like to move on to the Cabinet Office in more detail. The inaction from the Cabinet Office especially this hard time for them has been outstanding. We deserve a proper accountability in politics. It should not take an opposition debate to get them to speak out. That is disgraceful. From a government that prioritised proper scrutiny to a government that slacks on it. Double standards reign on those benches. I said this during the debates. They called out Doc's government for the exact same vulgar nature. I called out Doc's government for the same, but his government has turned into Doc's version 0.2 government. They sit there all smug like nothing ever happened. I resigned from Doc's government, and I'm sure and members next to me did as well. We knew about what happened there, but now they have become Doc's government, and they have no shame. I am completely disgusted by the way they have handled this situation. They threw transparency out the window and went on their own game. So we need proper accountability again. They promised it during the campaign. They failed to deliver it. I spoke with the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, and it was a very concerning meeting. The government were obviously not briefed on what to say. The government had given us different directions throughout this period until today. The Prime Minister has neglected his post in recent days. He has failed the country and this House. We are meant to provide proper scrutiny, and we will. That is why I called for today's debate alongside other members of the opposition. We will be the opposition that served the people. We will be the people's opposition. And we will stand up to people like the Justice Secretary who think they can reign on their own agendas and continue to serve despite bringing shame to public life. It is time this government stands up, this Prime Minister stands up for proper politics again. I feel ashamed to call myself an MP in the current circumstances. They have brought shame onto the role of members of Parliament. The British people are ashamed to look at us. During the election, they have lied. I withdraw. They inadvertently misled the British people. They said they'll do one thing, they did the other. Maybe it is time for a change in leadership. Some have said their own backbenchers are losing confidence. I said change in leadership.
Leader changing.
Their own backbenchers are getting...
Order. We do order. I gave this warning to the opposition, and now I have to give it to the Treasury benches. There's no need for sedentary interjections from the... Especially, I would hope they would not be coming from the Treasury benches. But, alas, here we are. So, this is going to be a final warning to the... This is going to be a final warning to the government benches, as I have given a final warning to the opposition benches. Continuing interjections from sedentary positions will lead to me asking for your withdrawal, Leader of the Opposition.
Their own backbenchers are fed up. I spoke to one earlier. I will not name the backbencher for protection so he does not get punished. But what he said was in field with the British public. Maybe if he spoke to the British public a bit more, maybe if he spoke to his backbenchers a bit more, maybe he spoke to his party a bit more, he might not be so out of touch with the general feel. I personally like to speak to the public. I like to see what they think, and I like to see how I can improve. Maybe he doesn't. We will never know unless he answers to this house. In future, we need to reflect on our actions, as we always do. I reflected on ours during the state opening and how we could improve to provide proper opposition, and we will continue to do so. It is time this Cabinet Office and this government pattern up, as the youth like to say.
Right.
Yeah.
They get rid of the Justice Secretary and bring back proper politics as it used to be. Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Mr. Clark, I'd like to raise a point of order briefly.
Point of order,
apologise for
Deputy Leader of the
the
Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I would like to inform this House that the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster may have inadvertently misled the House, as in the politics channel, you can see that the Member of Parliament for Essex and Kent has released an image where the first Secretary of State says, you worked with, I can't name him, for the leaks. I've got a massive leak that will topple the Labour government. And yet he claimed that the former Home Secretary was the real leak. So will correct the record, Mr. Speaker, and go and tell the truth, even though it wasn't actually his fault.
Order. I'm quite confused as to why. Order. Before I respond to the point of order from the Deputy Leader of the Opposition, never mind. In regards to the point of order raised by the Deputy Leader of the Opposition, if the Right Honourable the Chancellor of the Duchy feels he needs to correct the record, I will allow him to do so in a moment. But it is my understanding that the Chancellor of the Duchy identified the previous leaks as coming from the former Home Secretary. But I will allow the Chancellor of the Duchy to correct the record and elaborate further if he so chooses to. If not, we will continue the debate. No, moving on then.
Shocker that, Mr.
Wow.
We'll go to the Foreign Secretary.
Shameful.
Shame.
Use your microphone.
Speaker.
Shame to our politics.
Order.
It's Mr. Clark, by the way.
Yes.
Order.
That's not.
I have a strong feeling that this point being raised by the Foreign Secretary has no relation to the pending question before the House, which relates to the Cabinet Office. I could be wrong, and if the Right Honourable Gentleman is going to speak about the Cabinet Office, then the Right Honourable Gentleman is not going to speak about the Cabinet Office. Therefore, my power is given to me under Standing Order number 32. I am ending your speech for irrelevance.
Yeah.
We go to the Member of Parliament for Tayside.
Here.
Order before we hear from the member. Point of order from the Chancellor of the Duchy.
If you'll consent,
we
Mr.
go.
Clark, I'd like to make a quick response comment to the.
No. No.
Yeah.
Order.
Sit
Order.
down.
Order. Leader of the opposition, I do not need assistance from you in this matter, sir.
That wasn't the
Chancellor.
What?
Who was it? I don't really care, honestly.
It
Somebody
wasn't
over
me.
there. I don't know who it was. I just assumed it was you. Sorry, Callum.
Sure.
I will say to the right honourable gentleman, I gave him the opportunity to correct the record, in which he sat there and said nothing. So that time has passed. We will now continue with the debate on the Cabinet Office. The
Yeah.
Member of Parliament for Tayside.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. And first of all, before I start, the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster has had the opportunity, quite rightly, to correct the record in which he should. He has inadvertently misled this house, but I think members of this house know what I am indicating when I say that. This parliamentary sitting has not gone too well for the government. It's unreeling so much stuff that the public deserve to know. The Justice Secretary sits on the government benches and says nothing. He has said that and goes on about his personal opinion polling. The public do not care about his personal opinion polling. This house does not care
Give way.
about his personal... No, I will not give way. This house does not care about his personal opinion polling. We care about having an integral government who serve our great country without doing actions like that. They offend the chairman of the British of the BBC. Shame on you. They sit there and inadvertently mislead this house and the public. Shame on you. To the backbencher who has quite rightly come out and said the wrongdoings of the Democratic Social Party. I praise them. I really do, Mr. Clark, because they have done nothing but serve in the interests of this great nation. It's not hearsay, no. This is disgusting from the government. I urge the resignation of the Justice Secretary, and I urge the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster to do what is right. Do what is right, correct the record, and start doing your job properly. It shouldn't be up to the Cabinet Office for the Justice Secretary to be removed from his post. It should be up to the Justice Secretary to grow a pair and resign.
Order. Before we continue, I'm so confused as to why members are standing while I'm standing.
They've got no respect.
Before we continue with the debate, I feel that just to say to the member of Parliament for Forth Valley, this is not a court of law, sir. You can say hearsay all you want, but this is not a court of law. We don't have objections. We don't invalidate speeches because of no, I do not need interjections from the opposition. Thank you. This is not a court of law. Screaming hearsay is not going to get you anywhere. We will now continue with the debate. Prime Minister.
I just want to give out a point of order, which I was trying to say before we continued. This had nothing to do about the Cabinet Office. The fact is, we were talking about, he was more focusing back on the Secretary of State's Justice. Not
Quite
one
rightly.
thing.
Order.
Wow.
I would like to remind the Prime Minister that it is my job to determine what is and isn't relevant under the standing orders. Not his. He can encourage me to do so, but that final decision is up to me. It was my understanding that the honourable gentleman, the member of Parliament for Tayside and Fife, was making his statement in regards to A, the Chancellor of the Duchy, and B, the Cabinet Office's response to the Secretary of State for Justice. That is my understanding, and my understanding of the honourable gentleman's speech is the only one that matters. You can disagree with me all you want, sir, but I quite frankly do not care. So we will now continue with the debate on the Cabinet Office. Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since I last spoke, some new evidence have came out against the Cabinet Office, and it does really make me concerned that the Cabinet Office did not conduct a full-on investigation before they sacked the former Home Secretary. They led it on speculation, mistrust, with no real evidence-based facts. They obviously aren't a sciencey bunch. who like evidence. They like to use speculation, which I think is shameful in politics, as people do like to inadvertently mislead in politics. I've seen it before in my own career on PB. So we do need some more transparency from this disgraceful government, and especially the Cabinet Office during this. We need some guidance from the Cabinet Office. We need to see what went wrong and why these failures happened. So I do hope we can hopefully organise another Cabinet investigation into the conduct of the of ministers within the Cabinet Office, including the Prime Minister and the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster. I will be calling for that later today within the public domain, as I do believe it's important to see where these failures, where all these issues are lying within government, as I do not want to see this in our democracy. Did they use evidence, or did they use speculation? That will be the question on the public, in the public's minds. Do they have no shame, Mr. Clark, when they sit there and inadvertently mislead this House and the British public? So it's important we have these debates, as I said earlier, to make sure we get to the bottom of this, and we can obviously continue to scrutinise and do our duty for the British people and those that we represent. My constituents are very concerned. I spoke to a few earlier. They want answers, and they want answers soon. Especially with this new issue that's arisen, is just going to fuel this mistrust that they are trying to patch up. The cracks are showing. They need to learn that. They need to take the right steps and stop putting their buddies into government and trying to keep them there, but take proper action and do the right thing for the British people. The Justice Secretary needs to resign, and we need an investigation into the leadership of this government. Thank you.
We go to, who was that? The Secretary of State for the Home Department.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Oh my goodness, my keyboard is not keyboarding right now. Oh Lord. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I would like to just stay and clarify that I am going to speak about the Cabinet Office, but I'd like to start off by thanking the opposition for doing exactly what they're intended to do. And that's holding this government accountable and scrutinizing them for things they do, just as they would expect from us if we were sitting on the benches opposite. So I do commend them for that, and I do thank them for doing that. But what I will say is the Cabinet Office should have had credible time to complete an investigation. As far as I'm aware, there will be a statement released from 10 Downing tonight by the Prime Minister, and I do encourage the general public and the opposition to attend that statement so they can hear what changes are going to unfold. We have seen the Cabinet Office step in previous ministries. For example, the Combat Kobe ministry when it came to bullying. I'm surprised they didn't step on the Omani Sabella ministry the moment he ordered soldiers to gun down citizens. What I will say is until this government reaches the point of Armani Sabella, I think there's at least an ounce of try worth left in it, because Armani Sabella was a bag of work. The Cabinet Office deserves the same attention that the people deserve from government. The same attention and quality that the opposition's put into scrutinizing the government. Which is why I would encourage the Prime Minister, along with the Chancellor of the Duchy, seeing as though they're working with the Cabinet Office to push for reforms if needed and to ensure that the Cabinet Office is a secondary agency holding the Cabinet and the government accountable for actions that take place. And reports should be presented to both houses of Parliament so that we can better ensure that both houses are constantly kept up to date on the matter at hand. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I can't find my seat because my keyboard's lagging.
We'll go to the Foreign Secretary.
Oh.
Really? Bloody decision.
Oh, an hour and a half.
Oh, what's he yapping on about? Fiction?
A leaker of national security. He leaked someone saying that they want to be the cabinets come.
And it wasn't it an unofficial group chat as well?
Order.
But it wasn't anything national
Order.
security wise, was
Order.
Exactly. Here.
Order. We've been over this. We're so close to the end. Leader of the opposition, deputy leader of the opposition. We're so close. Oh, sorry. The member of parliament for Tayside, deputy leader. We are so close to the end. Do not make me ask you to leave now. Let's hear what the foreign secretary has to say, and if you don't like it, you can get up and respond to it after he finishes.
So,
Oh, he is done. So we'll go to Sergeant James.
thank you, Mr. Clark. Well, if he leaked it, I don't know how he's leaked information. The cabinet is. We knew this already, but the cabinet has just confirmed to us that they aren't united at all. The government, the Prime Minister in a statement said that he removed the Home Secretary because he wanted a united cabinet. I suspect that in order for him to have a united cabinet, he's going to have to remove more than the Home Secretary. I think it was the Foreign Secretary just said there that the leaker leaked national security. The Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster told the House that the group was an unofficial group chat. Therefore, surely there was no information regarding national security. And if there was information regarding national security when the group chat was not in a place, could you just not? Let me make my point. If the information was made at a time where the group was not dealing or did not contain any requirement for national security information, surely it is not a breach of national security. I'd like the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster to reply to me if he would on that point, and I'd also like to tell the Prime Minister what I think about this. The Justice Secretary has done something completely wrong, and it would be much easier for him to get him out of the cabinet, and it would be much better for our public and the Ministry of Justice for him to leave the cabinet. It's caused a massive disarray in the Democratic Social Party, and most importantly, our government. We have to put up with this as an opposition. The public have to put up with it as great citizens. We need a strong, stable government. We're not getting that. We're getting senior ministerial figures contradicting each other. We just can't go on like with this, Mr. Clark. If it was the other way around and the British Democrats were experiencing an issue like this, which we're not because we are a strong and stable party, the government would be all over us. But the fact of the matter is that the cabinet is not united, and there certainly should, and in order for it to be united, be reshuffles and removals of ministerial figures who contradict each other on significant issues that impact the public and impact important departments such as the Ministry of Justice. Thank you, Mr. Clark.
We'll go to the Home Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. What I will say is I understand everybody's bringing up these topics and these points inside of this House, but I really do encourage each member of this House to completely support and push for a full investigation by the Cabinet Office. We are throwing allegations, we are throwing different images around. Why not let an independent source investigate the situation and then a report be provided to this House so everyone is more informed of the situation? Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Mr.
Leader of the
Speaker.
Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I've heard many responses this evening. I would like to begin speaking about what the Foreign Secretary said about morals and about how we are questioning them. We started questioning them when they allowed the Justice Secretary to continue sitting on those benches with no shame. None of them have shame. None of them have shame. And they continue to sit there and keep muttering this. And I would like to also remind the Home Secretary that I was the first person in this House to call for a full-on investigation into the whole Cabinet Office and the approach that they took. Yes, I agree with their backbencher that we do need to bring back standards to government. This government's acting worse than the Dock administration. Very concerning stuff. I'd also like to move on to transparency again, and that we've just not got that. No one here is talking about the importance of having transparency. We're just not getting that from their benches. Even the opposition's been more transparent than the government, and that is very concerning. We're not in government and we're doing more to be transparent about our shadow cabinet. In fact, I reshuffled mine so we could have an effective scrutinising body to keep scrutinising them lot, because they obviously need it. Every day there's a new event, and I'll be honest with you all, I'm all here for it, and I'm sure my right honourable friends next to me are here for it. We've quite enjoyed this week with all that's coming out, and I'm glad it's all coming out, because the public deserve to find out. As much as they want it to stay behind closed doors, it's important that it comes out. So I can't wait to see the report written by the Cabinet Secretary. It's going to be quite a detailed and interesting read. It's going to uncover a lot of findings, and I do hope the Prime Minister will respond, or the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster. Will they speak to the Cabinet Office about a full-on investigation, not just into the comments made by the Justice Secretary, but by the actions of them in handling the sacking of the former Home Secretary? Because obviously, new findings have found that he may not have been the leak. I say may not because we need that to be confirmed on the record still. And what did they use to ensure that this is a rhetorical question, and how did they come to a conclusion that he had to go? From what I've heard, they've got no evidence. They've done this on pure speculation, Mr. Clark. And I'm very concerned if we governed, if our courts used just speculation and with no evidence, where would we be? Many innocent individuals would be prosecuted for no apparent reason, and that would be a major scandal if that was to happen. So will this government for once stand up and please inform the House of how they were sure that he was the leak, and did they have the proper and appropriate evidence to accuse him of being that leak? And finally, will they go up to the British people and give them some truth instead of giving us all these mixed messages? The Cabinet cannot agree on what happened. I don't think we need the Prime Minister to maybe have a few more meetings with them, and so they're all on the same page. Maybe the GC is too busy filled with interesting comments. So I do hope that they will have a proper professional GC, which is official all the time. They don't have, as someone said earlier, where it's not when they go off duty. We want a 24-hour government, not a off-duty slacking government. I'm sure we all want to see proper governance. Because I'm going to tell him I'm happy to take his position if he's not willing to do that. And my shadow cabinet is willing to take up the posts that they sit on if they're not willing to hold their heads high and do the proper duties that they should be doing, not saying stupid remarks in GCs. I do hope they can respond with pride and bring some accountability back to politics. Thank you.
Councillor of the Duchy.
Mr. Clark, I motion to adjourn the House in line with the government's previous private plans for the Prime Minister's speech at 10 o'clock tonight.
Yes, he does.
I motion you suck my bollocks. I withdraw.
Yes, he does. He doesn't even want to answer the question.
Yeah.
What is this?
Shameful.
Free line no. Free line no. Now benches.
Wow. Wow, shameful from the government. They should all be ashamed of themselves.
That's how it works in the House of Commons member for Forth Valley.
The question we put, the motion be heard as presented, as many as have that opinion say aye.
No.
Aye.
No.
Shameful. Too scared to get some
If
scrutiny.
the Prime Minister has prior commitments, the Prime Minister can leave.
Himself can leave and the rest can stay, considering the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster.
Obviously, they like to hide behind them, don't they? They like to hide
from the public. Yeah,
they like to hide behind the Prime Minister. So when he leaves, they just become weak.
And the fact is,
The fact is
Well,
No,
Six,
the
six,
fact
seven,
is, the fact is
seven.
you're trying to duck responsibility. That's the
Then.
fact. You're
Oh,
too weak
the
to stand up to the opposition.
Return to the
Well,
lobby.
Get a
The
grip
fact
of
is
your
the
cabinet,
Chancellor of
can
the
ya?
Duchy isn't required to be at your Downing Street speech, is he?
You're not looking at any facts anymore. You're
Disgraceful.
not policy.
Absolutely
You're
shameful.
spouting more shite than your diet, you
Thank
Oh,
Whoa, Mr.
the-
Clark, point of
Nine-
order.
Point of
The
order,
yes,
shut
unparliamentary
it.
language from the unparliamentary Prime Minister.
Order.
Unparliamentary Prime
Order.
Minister.
Gentlemen,
Order.
Deserve to be there.
Order. Order. Thank you. I would like to remind members the House is in a period of voting, so we are currently locked. So I honestly cannot be asked to deal with whatever shenanigans you all have been up to while I was counting the ballot papers.
Yeah.
Jesus. The ayes. Great. I forgot the vote now. The ayes to the right are 8. The noes to the left are 4. So the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The question is the. Hang on.
No.
Order. I haven't said anything. I'm
Oh,
order. Order. Let me read something very quickly.
Get on with it.
ew.
Hang on. I'm just making sure. There's. Hang on. Hold, please.
We're holding.
Holding
I'm
for
not
dear
intentionally
life,
delaying.
Prime
I'm
Minister.
just trying to find a.
He's under his desk. He's decided to hide.
Little dragon all over
Surprised
it.
he can fit in it.
Yeah.
Did we count the Prime Minister?
That Taco Bell.
Wait,
Oh.
whoa, did the Prime Minister get more than
He's at-
one vote, Mr. Clark?
No.
He's got to have a pit stop
Yeah,
at Pizza Hut, the fat
I think
tosser.
his leg got one.
Oh dear.
Way.
Actually, have 5. There's
Need to
5
get-
body parts.
Get the cleaners to clean the KFC buckets in the voting chambers now.
Question is question. We put that the House should now adjourn as many as are of that opinion. Say aye.
No.
No.
To the contrary, no.
Aye.
Division.
No.
Clear the lobby.
Anti-scrutiny government here.
I
Honestly,
motion that the
thank-
Prime Minister sucks my balls.
They're too scared.
Wait,
Too
we
scared.
seriously hang on. Are we actually voting again?
Yes, because
No,
the
'cause
question has to be
that
put,
was
and
the-
then the actual motion has to be heard.
Oh. This is just giving the Prime Minister more time to eat. I bet the
And then I sh-
statement's no longer than 5 minutes.
I'm just
and it'll
taking
be a load
some
of bollocks.
exclusive photos of
Return
Oswey.
to the lobby.
Oh, look at them all, smug as can be. Shame on them.
Hiding from
Shame.
scrutiny, Mr. Speaker.
Here.
What tossers?
We'll swap seats.
I love this
Disgusting.
lanyard.
A lot of space here from Owen. I apologize.